Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today I'm going to be going over 10 tips and tricks for PvP in Grand Theft Auto Online in 2023. Now I made one of these videos about 10 months ago and it did super good, but I got a lot of feedback in the comments. Some of my points, I will be honest, were a little bit lackluster, and I decided that it was time to make an updated guide for PvP for 2023 with updated points and things like that. So in today's video we're going over 10 tips and tricks to help you improve at PvP in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let's get started with number 10. So my first tip that I neglected to mention in the last video, and that was pretty highly suggested in the comments down below, is actually highlighting players. Now there's two ways that you can do this. You can go through the interaction menu and go to highlight player, and then in here you could turn on your highlight on a certain player. However, with this, I have noticed in my experience, sometimes it will kind of go away. It's almost like it's on a timer. So what you can also do, instead of going through the interaction menu like this, is actually go through your phone and go to your contacts. And then you click on a contact and you can highlight them if you scroll down once you clicked on them. Obviously I can't show you because I have no players in my phone at the moment because I'm in an invite only session, because PC is full of hackers. Anyways, you can highlight them through your phone, and that seems to work a little bit better. It doesn't seem like there's as much of a time delay on it or something like that where it will deactivate. So basically what this does is it makes your blip kind of flash similar to how mine is, except the second flash is highlighted in sort of a green color. So this is really helpful. It'll definitely help to highlight a player who you're fighting on your map for you, so you don't lose track of them as easily. I know myself, I lose track of players all the time, so highlighting them has really helped me. I've just started doing that really recently, so I have noticed a huge improvement. Anyways, that's it for number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Now the next tip that I have for you guys is paying attention to your minimap. Now this one might seem really obvious, and in fact I think that it is for the vast majority of you. If you're any good at PvP, it's probably somewhat to do with the fact that you use your minimap. So if you guys didn't know, we have the small minimap, obviously, like everybody knows that, but if you press Z twice on PC, so 1, 2, it will bring up your expanded radar. Now you can also do this by pressing down on the D-pad. I believe it's either twice or 3 times depending on how many players are in your session, and you will get the expanded radar, which obviously you can see a lot further. Now your small radar will still show up with the dots along the edges of it depending on the direction the other players are facing, but if you want the expanded radar, you simply do this and you can see for several blocks in the city, which is very nice. Now I like to use the expanded radar particularly to see incoming threats. Like if I see an Oppressor Mark II heading directly my direction, or if I see a jet heading directly my direction, it's a lot easier to tell with the expanded radar versus just the regular radar. It would typically show that there's a jet, and you might see it starting to get brighter and the opacity kind of going down. And eventually, you know, obviously if it gets to the point where it's, you know, right in front of me across the street there, I will see it, but by that time it's too late. So I always, when I'm PvPing, am just spamming the expanded radar, always looking for threats. And this one is going to tie into something a little bit later on that we're going to talk about in the video, so stay tuned for that. My next tip that I have for you revolves around clothing. Now, as you guys can see, I am wearing a tactical quad lens helmet on my head, and this is not for no reason. If you didn't know, helmets in GTA actually do protect you from bullets, but there's only 2 types that actually do it. You can find them under the hat section at Suburban. So simply enter into here and you go all the way down to bulletproof helmets and combat helmets. Now bulletproof helmets are a little bit dinky looking. They're kind of the OG bulletproof helmets that we have in GTA. These will allow you to take 2 more shots to the head from pretty much any weapon except for the heavy sniper. With the heavy sniper, you do not get any extra protection with these typically, but for most guns you do get an additional 2 shots to the head. However, I recommend against getting a bulletproof helmet and rather go spend the extra money and get yourself a combat helmet. And when you get a combat helmet, as you guys can see, these are a little more expensive. They're about $100,000 typically. Make sure you are getting a quad lens helmet though. Now there's an interesting thing between the combat helmets that most people don't know. The regular dual lens combat helmets that you guys can see right here are night vision. When you put the goggles down, they will give you the ability to use night vision. However, with the quad lens, you will gain the ability to use thermal, which is very useful. And obviously they will protect you from headshots, so these are definitely a good thing to have. Now the next thing that we got to talk about are your settings. If you go into the settings tab on GTA GTA on PC or Xbox, it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but under the gamepad setting, this is for controllers. Now, what I would recommend is turning off vibration, and under the targeting mode here, you can see that it's blurred out for me because I don't have a controller. Make sure this is not set to partially aim assisted. Make sure it is set to full aim assist. You will be able to see it for those of you using a controller or those of you on console. Make sure that your targeting mode is on full aim assist. The other thing that I would recommend is having a higher sensitivity typically, because you will be able to turn around faster on other people. Now, I play on mouse, so I don't really have to worry about this so much, which is definitely an advantage. The next thing that I want you to do is allow movement when zoomed. Turn this on. For your drive-by control type, I recommend changing this from aim plus fire to just fire. That way, all you're gonna have to do is press the fire button when you want to shoot, and you will just be able to aim automatically instead of having to press the aim button plus the fire button as well. That is gonna save you a little bit of time, and you're gonna be able to focus more on driving while you are shooting. So make sure it's just on fire. Now, for those of you on PC, under the keyboard and mouse settings, make sure this is on raw input and make your sensitivity however you would like it to be. Make sure your first-person aim type is set to normal, not the iron sights of your weapon. Make sure you have auto center mouse on bikes, cars, and aircraft all enabled as well. Now, when you go into your camera settings, make sure that your first person on foot field of view is absolutely maxed out. You're going to want that very, very high. First person ragdoll, you're also going to want to turn this off so that when you get hit, you go into third person. Same with first person combat roll, turn that off. First person head bobbing, turn that off as well. First person, third person cover, turn this on as well. First person vehicle auto center, have this on. First person vehicle hood, have this off. And first person drive-by camera relative to vehicle, make sure you have this turned off. Now, you guys will be able to see a pretty significant difference here. I'm going to go and purposely get hit by one of these cars in first person, and you guys will be able to see the difference that this makes. I want one of these people to hit me. Okay, well, they're not. Okay, hang on. You guys will see now that I'm in first person, when I get hit and ragdoll, it will put me into third person to make me able to see a little bit more of my environment. So if you get hit by a car lightly, you will go into third person so you can see what is going on in your surroundings, and you can look around really quick before you automatically go back into first person like this, as you guys can see. This is a very useful setting to have. Make sure you guys turn this on. Now, next up, we got to talk about one of the integral parts of PvP in GTA, and that is sniping. Sniping is a very important part of GTA, especially when it comes to PvP. It's probably what you're going to use the absolute most when you PvP, at least in my opinion. That's what I probably use the most. Sniping is pretty key, and I do have some good tips for you. If you're interested in learning lots and lots about sniping, all the tips that I have, I will put a little thing in the top right of your screen. If you guys are interested in learning just about sniping, I do have a guide for that. However, we are still going to touch on it just in this video, and I do have some pretty good tips for you guys. Most of you will know this by now. However, there are new players coming into GTA every day who might not know some of this stuff, so I'm going to talk about this. And when you're sniping in third person, like you guys can see, I'm in third person, then I scope into my sniper. When I move side to side, we move very, very slowly. However, if you transition into first person and then ADS, you guys can see how much faster I am moving while in first person. Now, this is very key. When you're actually fighting other players, you can do some dirty stuff with this first person camera because you're able to transition from left to right super fast and get across the screen even faster. So this is going to make it much harder for your opponents to actually hit you. Now, another good tip that I have for you guys about sniping, this does kind of tie into the radar thing. And say you have a player who's over by the downtown cab company, but he's a little bit more to the right of it. What I want you to do is fully ADS and just aim at this corner. You're going to pre-aim the corner before they come around. Now, you'll notice when you go into the sniper scope here, look at the radar in the bottom left corner. It expands. What I want you to do is pre-aim the corner, and your radar will expand so that you can see a little bit further along to where your enemy may be coming from. Say they're coming around this corner, or maybe they're coming around this corner all the way up here. You can pre-aim and you can see when their dot is coming a little bit closer to the corner so you can get ready to fire as soon as they come around. This will give you a huge advantage in combat. There's a lot of idiots who play GTA and they'll just run around the corner like this and then scope in and try to hit you. But if you're already pre-aiming the corner, I mean, they're gonna have a bit of a problem on their hands. And obviously when you're pre-aiming too, you can see exactly where they are on your radar. So this is a pretty huge tip that I have for you guys. That's pretty much all I'm going to talk about with sniping. Like I said, I got the in-depth guide if you guys are interested, so go and check that out. Alright guys, and for tip number 5, this is going to tie into the quad lens helmet as well as the heavy sniper, depending on your upgrades that you have on the heavy sniper and if you have the Mark II variant of it. We are of course going to be talking about thermal. Now if you didn't know, like I said, the quad lens does have thermal, the dual lens is night vision, and having the regular bulletproof helmet will do neither of these things for you. So the quad lens is really good for this thermal ability. Now typically on PC you can activate this by holding down F11, I believe the key is. However, it doesn't always work for me, so there is another way, and this is how you're going to be able to do it. You're going to go into your style menu here within the interaction menu, and you're going to go to your helmet visor. Now when you go to your helmet visor, you should be able to switch it. However, mine's not working at this point, which is very strange. However, typically it does. Yeah, so for some reason my visor is not working, but typically this would work. And then what you can do is go into your accessories and hover over your hats, and whatever quad lens helmet you have, you will see in the bottom right it says set. Now when you press set, in theory it should go into thermal, but for some reason mine is not, and I don't know why this is happening. Now obviously this puts you into thermal where literally everything around you is lit up like a Christmas tree, well, everything that's living, that is. However, there is an alternative to this because turning this on and off can be a little bit annoying, so what you can do instead is unlock through your bunker research the thermal scope for the heavy sniper Mark II. Now you guys will be able to see me using this. What you can do with the thermal scope is when you are scoped in, you can quickly toggle by pressing E on keyboard, and I believe it's probably right on the D-pad on console, and you can toggle thermal on and off very, very quickly, which I like because I find it a lot easier than using the quad lens helmet for thermal. However, if you don't have the thermal scope, you can of course just use the quad lens. It's just going to be a little less efficient for you because it is going to take a bit of time to unequip it and equip it. But using thermal is super, super helpful. As you guys can see by my thermal scope on my heavy sniper, I can see people that are super far away. I can even see people that I otherwise wouldn't be able to, like the person that's standing right behind this window. You can also use this on players. Sometimes you will be able to spot players through objects. As you guys can see, I can see NPCs through these houses that are across the sewer from me, which is absolutely nuts. I can see cars that are way down here. I can see people standing here, all kinds of stuff. The thermal scope on the heavy sniper, or just thermal in general with the helmet, is very useful to have, and it's really good to keep track of other players. If you do this in combination with highlighting them, you're going to be able to know where these people are at all times, which is very, very helpful, obviously. That's pretty much it for tip number 5. Use the thermal on your helmet or on your heavy sniper Mark II if you have it, and if you don't have it, you should definitely strive to try to get it. For tip number 4, we're going to come on over to ammunition, and the first thing that we're going to be talking about is armor. Now, you guys are going to want to have body armor for your character at all times. Body armor is very useful in PvP. It will definitely allow you to take a few more shots when people are shooting at you, which is very, very important. And the other thing that you're going to need is snacks. Now snacks, you can eat them through the inventory menu within the interaction menu by going in here, and they will heal you up quite fast. However, typically when you eat snacks through the interaction menu, your character will usually go into an animation. How you can get around this is by taking cover. You can take cover and then go into the interaction menu, go to your snacks and eat them without any sort of an issue. However, Rockstar has also added, with the addition of the Criminal Enterprises DLC, a new way to eat snacks, and that is through your weapon wheel. As you guys can see, when the weapon wheel is up, you can press C to eat a snack on keyboard or V to use armor, and now I believe this is somewhere on the D-pad on console if I'm not mistaken, and this is very useful. You can do this without an animation as well, so that is super, super handy. Definitely something that you should be using in PvP. If you get tagged, you can heal up and equip armor, and you'll be able to take a couple of extra shots with the body armor as well. So couple the body armor with the tactical helmet or the bulletproof helmet, you're going to be able to take about 4 extra shots to the head, which is pretty crazy. At number 3, the weapons that you should have for PvP in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now this is pretty simple. I'm going to start off in ammunition and just show you guys the weapons that you are going to need. Now people say that the homing launcher is good. I completely disagree with this. Now I will say the homing launcher does have its advantages. In an ideal PvP scenario, theoretically the homing launcher should be very good. Its rocket fires a little bit faster than the RPG and also travels faster. It has a quicker reload, and obviously it's the homing launcher, so it can lock onto things. However, this can also be a huge problem. So I recommend against the homing launcher, and I'm going to show you guys why in just a minute. However, we got to talk about some of the other guns that are absolute necessities. First of which being the minigun. The minigun is a must-have in GTA Online. This thing is absolutely essential. Very, very good once you reach level 120. Next up, right above the minigun, we have the grenade launcher. The grenade launcher is a great weapon to have. You can shoot grenades at a pretty far distance, and they kind of angle down towards hopefully where your enemies are going to be. You can also bounce these grenades off of walls and things like that and get ricochets so that they land, you know, right where you need them to. On top of this, the RPG right above the grenade launcher. The RPG is my preferred choice out of it and the homing launcher. I think that this thing is super good, and I will show you guys why in just a second as well. The next weapon that you obviously are going to need is the heavy sniper, and in order to make the heavy sniper Mark II, you need the heavy sniper. Once you get the heavy sniper, make it the Mark II as soon as you possibly can through your MOC weapon workshop or your Avenger weapon workshop. The next gun that you are going to need is the assault shotgun. This is the best close range gun in Grand Theft Auto Online, in my opinion. This thing absolutely shreds. You would be hard pressed to lose a fight at close range with the assault shotgun. Only way you're going to lose is if they RPG you around the corner. That's literally it. This thing is so good. It's definitely something that I recommend having. Put the extended mag on it. You can put the suppressor on if you want. I've got mine fully kitted out, and I absolutely love this thing. Now for a drive-by weapon, I recommend completely against the mini Uzi. I would say go for the AP pistol. It deals out a lot more damage than the Uzi, although it is a lot less accurate. So what I would recommend is tap firing this thing whenever possible. AP pistol though with the extended mag, great weapon. And we also need to talk about the special carbine. Now the special carbine is a weapon that you use to make into its Mark II variant. This is regarded as the best assault rifle in Grand Theft Auto Online, especially for the money. Even as a Mark I, you can have a 100-round drum mag on this thing, which is absolutely crazy. Definitely something that I would recommend picking up. And another weapon that we also are going to need is the Combat MG in order to make the Combat MG Mark II, which is the best fully automatic weapon in the game other than the minigun. And then I feel like an underrated one that we got to talk about too are the grenades. Grenades are very useful, especially for bouncing off of walls and dropping onto people that are lower down than you. These are super, super handy to have. Proximity mines are also useful, as well as sticky bombs. Sticky bombs are absolutely essential. Okay, so now that we've got all of our weapons, we got to talk about what I was saying about the homing launcher and the RPG. Now, in theory, like I said, the homing launcher should be very good. However, you guys are going to see why it's not in a second. Okay, I want to kill those people. Oh, look, my homing launcher's locking. Oh, look, my homing. Oh, yeah, it locks onto everything. So if you're fighting players that are on the ground with you, you will have moments where you definitely can kill them with the homing launcher. But as you guys can see, if I'm trying to kill those civilians on the side of the road right there, I literally can't do it because there's a car in the way. Say my opponent is up the hill. Look, I can't aim at them because there are cars around. This is why the homing launcher is absolutely useless. Now there are, I guess, technically some ways around this. You can quickly aim and fire it before you can even lock onto a vehicle. It's really not that good because if they go behind cover and you can't shoot for a second, you're gonna have to un-ADS and then ADS again and then un-ADS and ADS again. And you're gonna end up locking onto cars like the one I'm locked onto that's way down the street. I do not want to shoot that car right now. That's just not what I want to do. I want to shoot this dubster. I want to shoot that person down there. I can't. This is why I use the RPG, because the RPG does not lock onto anything. Now, yes, the missile does shoot a little bit slower, but it's not honestly significant enough that somebody's going to be able to get out of your way in time. I think that the RPG is going to do just fine for the vast majority of you. The one good thing about the homing launcher that I will say is you can get it from, I believe, level 0. So that is kind of useful when it comes to, you know, lower levels needing some sort of explosive. I would say that that is an acceptable time to get the homing launcher for sure. Now there's another gun that we got to talk about, and that is of course the Widowmaker. The Widowmaker is a great alternative to the minigun, says some people. However, I completely disagree with this. The Widowmaker does do slightly higher damage than the minigun, I will say that. The Widowmaker comes with a huge drawback that I feel like not a lot of people think about. When you're shooting with the regular minigun, as you guys can see, it shoots just you know, bullets. You can see there's kind of a gray line that comes out of the front of the gun that you can kind of trace to where the origin of the gunfire is coming from. However, with the Widowmaker, you are shooting tracer rounds. These are a lot easier to see, as you can probably tell. And a lot of people, for some reason, like to use the Widowmaker against jets. Can you see where I'm going with this? If you shoot at a jet with the Widowmaker, there is a line pointing directly to where you are shooting from, which is kind of not very useful if you want to stay alive versus something like a Hydra or a laser, as I'm sure you guys could probably figure out. But then again, you might not be able to figure it out because a lot of people can't seem to. So I completely recommend against the homing launcher and the Widowmaker once you are level 120 and you're high enough to get the alternatives to both of those guns. Make sure you have an assault shotgun, make sure you have the special carbine and the Mark II variant if you can, the Heavy Sniper Mark II as well, and the Combat MG Mark II, as well as the AP pistol. Now my next tip is going to revolve around using cover. Cover is something that I feel like is very underrated in GTA and that not a lot of players actually take into account. Now in my last video where I talked about cover, everybody who was a tryhard was basically just saying, oh, well, you can stand behind cover, I'll still get you with my RPG. Something along those lines. This is very true. So when it comes to cover, you have to be very, very smart. Now say I was shooting somebody who is just down the road from me and I'm standing behind this tree for cover. Well, if an RPG hits the other side of this tree, I am pretty much guaranteed to die because the explosive radius damage is going to take me out. So instead of standing right on the cover, what I'm going to do is stand a little bit further behind the cover. Now, if the player is somewhere right about here, I'm still going to be fully concealed from them standing behind the tree like this, and I can peek out and I can shoot at them a little bit like this and get behind cover again. And if they RPG me, it is going to hit the tree and blow up over there and not damage me. So when you're using cover, just make sure you're at a point where even if they do shoot an RPG at you, you can get away from it very quickly, either by combat rolling or just by fully sprinting away. Now, when you are running away after they've maybe shot an RPG at you, try to make sure that the tree is still in between you and them from their line of sight. Now, this will take some practice, this will take some getting used to, but eventually, if you're using a big enough piece of cover and everything, you will be able to get away from people without them having a great line of sight on you. They might be able to see an elbow or a shoulder or something like that peeking out, but eventually, if you get really good at this, if you do the thing where you look behind you when you're sprinting, you will be able to get better at doing this by putting things in between you and your enemy. Like these trees, I'm putting them in between me and my enemy if they were on top of the hill right there. You can use cars for this, you can use trees, you can use lampposts, anything that you can, you should absolutely use it. Cover is very essential in GTA. It is something that you absolutely must use. And another underrated thing is height. Height is something that can come into play a lot in GTA. If I am up here and my opponent is down below me, I don't even have to peek over the corner to shoot them like this. What I can also do is just throw a grenade, bounce it off the wall, and you guys can see it'll be down there, and it might do enough damage to actually kill them. Same with being on top of a building. An interesting thing you can do as well that I have actually used is when I'm on top of a building similar to this right here, you guys can see down below me there, if there's a player standing in cover, I can toss a grenade, bounce it off of the wall right there, and it will fall down and land perfectly on top of them. So using height to your advantage is great. Obviously, we all know, I think, that height advantages are a real thing. If you're up above somebody and they're down in that parking lot, for example, I can just peek over this wall, shoot at them a little bit, come back, peek it, and if they do RPG me, it's gonna have some decent travel time. I should be able to run and get away from where the RPG is going to hit. So make sure you're using height to your advantage, make sure you are using cover to your advantage, make sure you are using creative little grenade bounces to your advantage, bouncing things off of walls. Same with using the grenade launcher. For example, I will show you guys this too. You can bounce it off of there. If there's somebody around that corner, you can bounce it like that. It'll slide right into the corner. Same with if they're hiding behind that thing right there. Shoot the grenade like this. Boom. Bounce it right off the air conditioning unit. Destroyed. They would absolutely get annihilated. They'd be so mad. So that is it for tip number 2. We need to move on to our final tip for this video. Let's head down to the ground. The final tip that I have for you guys is going to revolve around vehicles and vehicle choice in GTA. Make sure that you guys have the right vehicle for the job. Now, there's a ton of different armored vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. There's a ton of different armed vehicles. We're going to be talking about ground vehicles specifically in this video because I feel like they are almost the most versatile and the most useful when it comes to PvPing in Grand Theft Auto Online. If you're in an aircraft, you're just going to get shot down, then you're going to end up on the ground anyways, and you're going to need a ground vehicle. A great one that I have for you guys is the Obey Omni EGT that you can see that I am driving right here. I use this thing in combat quite often, especially on the Xbox version of the game. This car is a lot more powerful than people think. With the armor upgrade on this, it can take between 12 and 20 RPGs. Now, a lot of people laugh at me when I say that this thing can take 20 RPGs. I don't know that I have the clip. If I do, I'll put it on screen. But I had one of my friends sit in the EGT and I shot it with 20 RPGs and it finally blew up on the 20th. Now, I've heard of other players only getting 12 rockets out of their EGT. I don't know how there's such a big variation, but with my EGT, I seem to be able to take 20 RPGs, but there have been times where I've only been able to take 12, which is kind of odd. Now, you don't have to use the EGT, it is just my recommendation because it does have a lot of armor. It's also an electric vehicle, so it's quite fast, and of course, it is a 4-seater. It also has a proximity oil slick mine dropper on it that you can drop behind you to spin people out that are chasing you. And of course, it is an Imani tech vehicle, which can make it be equipped with either a remote control device or a missile lock-on jammer. However, for the intents of this video, obviously we're going to be using the missile lock-on jammer, so oppressors and jets can't lock on to us with missiles, which is very, very useful. Couple that with the insane armor that this thing has, and you are going to survive for a very, very long time in an EGT. And of course, you can go to Los Santos Customs at any time and just repair it. So that's pretty crazy. The EGT is definitely a great PvP vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's probably the one that I recommend the most right now. Anyway, guys, there you have it. Those have been my top 10 PvP tips and tricks for Grand Theft Auto Online in 2023. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you learned something, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike. Subscribe to my channel if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.